House Democrats have released evidence showing that Donald Trump leveraged his role as president of the United States to collect millions of dollars from foreign entities. In other words, Democrats are now accusing Donald Trump of carrying out the very act that House Republicans want to impeach Joe Biden for with absolutely no evidence at all. I'm annoyed by both sides on this at this point, okay? I'm annoyed by Republicans going after Biden with an impeachment inquiry, even though there's no evidence indicating that he benefited from Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. And I'm also annoyed by Democrats digging this crap up when we've known about this for a long time and they did nothing about it until suddenly they're putting it out in the media. So let's get to the details. So these details are laid out in a 156-page document, a report, if you will, titled White House for Sale, and was produced by Democrats, specifically in the House Oversight Committee. That's the same committee that consists of the Republicans trying to impeach Joe Biden over nothing. Now, they released this information as a counterweight to Republicans and their efforts to impeach Biden. So it's all political, let's just keep it real. Trump's businesses received at least $7.8 million from 20 foreign governments during his presidency, according to new documents released by House Democrats on Thursday that show how much he received from overseas transactions while he was in the White House, most of it from China. Now, the Constitution prohibits the president from accepting money, payments, or gifts of any kind from foreign governments and monarchs unless he obtains the consent and permission of Congress to do so. And obviously he didn't do that. And I want to give you a little more context because what this is really about is when Trump was president, he would conduct official White House business in his hotels. He would probably insist that they took place in his hotels. So you have, people from other countries, foreign officials coming to the United States to meet with Donald Trump or meet with members of his administration in his properties. And as a result, his properties would benefit financially from that. Okay, so that's what they're essentially referring to here. Now, China made the largest total payment, $5.5 million, to his business interests, the report found. Those payments included millions of dollars from China's embassy in the United States, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and the Hainan Airlines Holding Company. But that wasn't the only country involved. You also have Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was the second largest spender, shelling out more than $615,000 at the Trump World Tower and Trump International Hotel. And at a campaign rally in 2015, Trump told on himself a little bit. He suggested that his personal financial incentives might influence his dealings with another government. He said, quote, Saudi Arabia, and I get along great with all of them. The report quotes him saying, they buy apartments for me. They spend $40 million, $50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them? I like them very much. So, yeah, I mean, why is this news now? That's what I want to know. This was news literally years ago. Literally years ago, the New York Times, which is reporting this latest story, had done their own investigation to find how much money was spent by foreign governments in his properties as he was conducting official White House business.
Yeah, well, I can answer that question, but I'm actually mixed on this story, it sounds like you are. So first of all, the reason it's coming up now is because the Republicans are doing nonsense hearings on Joe Biden. They have no evidence that he had any business that took any advantage of his positions. So Jamie Raskin put together this report saying, yeah, okay, you want to look at presidents and how they took advantage of their office to make money from foreigners? Well, here's $7.8 million that Donald Trump made. That's the fairest thing in the world. I thought they should have done it immediately. And if I was the Democrats, I would have done this and 10 times more, and I would have done it at the minute that the hearings began. I would have fired back 100 times about how Trump made money off of this and that. Okay, now, so that's why it's happening. There's a lot of truth to that, but our job is to be objective analysts here. So now let me give you the other side of the coin. So a lot of the money came from a Chinese bank that signed a deal with Trump Towers back in 2008, well before Donald Trump ever ran for office. So that is a hugely mitigating factor. What were they supposed to do? Cancel their lease agreement with Trump once he became president? Maybe, right? And so I'll get to what Trump should have done in a second, because there is a there. And then $650,000 from Saudi Arabia is the least amount of money Saudi Arabia has ever spent on anything. They spent more on bubblegum yesterday. Okay, totally. Now having said that, it's pretty tough to rack up to $615,000 worth of bills just by going to a hotel. But if anybody could do it, the Saudis could. So, but now, why is Trump wrong? Well, there's a very clear clause in the Constitution, although apparently nobody ever reads the Constitution, where it says if you get money from a foreign government or any kind of gift, and by the way, the Republicans also say, hey, look, there was goods exchanged here. Unlike Biden, they claim they're profiting off the name, although they have no evidence of that for Joe Biden at all. For Donald Trump, they say, well, they paid for a hotel, they got a hotel room. They paid for rent, they got rent. But guys, you know how you could shuffle a lot of money through there through rent, etc. In fact, Donald Trump did that most with his own contributors. The minute that he started getting donations into his political campaign and he didn't have to pay for his own bills, all the way back in 2015, 2016, he started massively increasing the rent that he was charging his campaign, so that the campaign donations from the average American, average MAGA guy would go directly into his pocket. So he's not short on scams, right? So do we follow the Constitution or don't we? The problem with Donald Trump is that he violates so many laws and so many provisions of the Constitution that you just can't keep up. It's a flood. If any other president had made nearly $8 million from foreign governments into their properties, no matter how legitimately they did it, it would be a firestorm. But this is, number 187 on his list of transgressions, so it feels minor in comparison to his much larger crime.
So you're right in that it feels minor when you put it in the context of everything else that he's done, but it's also something that feels minor in the context of our current disgustingly corrupt government. When you literally have members of Congress engaging in insider trading with impunity, something that we would go to prison for, it really does, it almost forces a black pill down your throat, okay? When you have a sitting member of the Senate who makes decisions about energy-related policy, heavily personally invested in his own private business pertaining to coal, a business that he makes $500,000 off of every year. And yes, I'm talking about Senator Joe Manchin. It's just hard for me to take anything Democrats have to say seriously.
Yeah, I know, but look, just Jim.
They're all corrupt, Cenk.
Anna, I agree with you, but so
they're all looking to find a nut, bury their nut, and move on with their lives.
I hear you on that. Nevertheless, we have to call things out as they are, right? And so there's campaign contributions, which are massive cancer in our body politic. Both Democrats and Republicans are deeply corrupt because of that. Never talked about in mainstream media. You've heard us cover that thousands of times. It applies to both parties. Republicans a smidge more, but Democrats massively guilty of it as well. But one of our members, and come do the show with us, tyt.com/join. We read your comments oftentimes in the middle of stories. So Just Jim wrote in about, hey, wait a minute, guys, don't be hypocritical because you asked the Democrats to fight back all the time. Here they are fighting back. And I have to say, I totally agree with Just Jim, because so this is what did we want him, wanted them to do, or wanted Jamie Raskin to do? Well, I would have said this. I mean, this is a good way of fighting back. And to Anna, in this particular case, if the Republicans were not making a big deal out of absolutely nothing regarding Joe Biden, if they weren't lying as they always do, they lie 99 out of 100 times, and pretending that Joe Biden had something to do with Hunter Biden's deals, right? Then I would say, okay, yeah, this is Trump's 187th crime. It's relatively minor compared to his other 186 crimes. We don't have to make a federal case out of it, literally, even though it's in clear, brazen violation of the Constitution. And by the way, let me just say that real quick. Let me explain that. According to the Constitution, if you take any kind of gift, you have to ask Congress whether you're allowed to.
Yep, I explained that.
Any payment at all. So Lincoln had to give back like an elephant tusk that he received as a gift because Congress wouldn't approve it. So Trump brazenly says, Constitution, I don't care at all. I'm not gonna report it, I'm just gonna take the money. Hey, look, Anna, if I was Raskin or the other Democrats, I would have done this earlier. I would have done it more viciously. I would have done it even 10 times harder and said that every time you mention your nonsense about Joe Biden, I'm gonna bash you over the head with what a crook Donald Trump is. And by the way, these are all peanuts compared to the $2 billion the Saudis gave Jared Kushner right after the election was over. That's his son-in-law. So it's literally 1,000 times worse than anything Hunter Biden's ever done. So if the Republicans said, yes, we agree, you guys are right, Trump and his family are dirty, dirty crooks who try to steal money at every turn and put it in their pockets, then I say, okay, fair enough, then we can move on. But have they ever said that? No, they're goddamn liars pretending Trump's a saint and that Joe Biden did this crooked. How many shows do you see that take on Joe Biden more than we do? But we're honest and we tell you, no, he didn't do this thing. So I'm tired of the Republican lies, and overall, I'm super glad that Raskin's fighting back.
Yeah, I'm tired of the lies and the corruption on both sides of the aisle. And when you say, we should give Democrats a round of applause, they're finally fighting back. You want to know what they want done with this report? What their end goal is with this report? Get a load of this. They're urging Congress to consider adopting new disclosure rules to help the legislative branch obtain information for proper oversight. That's what they want changed. Who put this report together again, Cenk? Who put this report together? It was members of Congress, right? Mm-hmm. So Congress is writing a letter to itself to declare that Congress needs to pass new laws pertaining to disclosure.
No, there's a good reason for that. So in this particular case, Trump's accounting firm was blocking all investigations into his financing after they were also charged with illegality because of the nonstop fraud that Donald Trump did and the fact that they might have been implicated. They then finally started working with Congress near the end of the last term, right? And when the Republicans came in, they said, don't cooperate with Congress. Whatever you do not tell us what the fraud that Donald Trump has done. We don't want to know. We want to investigate a fraud that didn't happen with Joe Biden, and we want to make sure you stop investigating the fraud that did happen with Donald Trump. So that's why they're asking for, hey, can we actually go back to investigating in a fair and honest way? And with the Republicans, the answer is always no. They hate being honest or fair.
Okay, Mazars released those financial documents in 2022. It has taken the Democrats this long to put their report out because it's not politically motivated at all.
No, I know, but remember, like I said, they stopped sharing because as soon as the Republicans came in, Comer and the others told them, don't you dare help us show any of the crimes that Donald Trump did.
And they listened?
Yeah, Mazars stopped cooperating because Congress officially stopped asking them for the accounting.
Okay, all right, well, there it is. You guys know about another bad thing that Trump did. So I don't know what's gonna end up happening with this, but what did stand out to me, and I thought it was interesting, was Eric Trump's need to get a little defensive about this report. And so during a recent interview about the report, he tried to defend his family and the fact that there is evidence that Trump properties took money from foreign governments. Let's take a look.
If somebody came into one of our hotels when my father was president, they were from a foreign country, a government official from a foreign country, and we found out about it, you know what we do? We donate all the money for that, that margarita that they bought at the bar, donate it back to the United States Treasury.
I don't know if there's any evidence of that, and I'm gonna speculate and say it's not true. So that was an interview from August of 2023. He said something very similar again today to the New York Times. Let's go to graphic 6. The narrative is insane, Eric Trump said of the Democrats' report. He added that there is no president in the United States history who was tougher on China than Donald Trump, citing the substantial tariffs the former president imposed on the country's goods and services. That is true. He also said the Trump organization did not have the ability or viability to stop someone from booking through third parties at the hotel. Let's go to graphic 5 now. Eric Trump also noted in an email that the Chinese bank mentioned in the report had signed a 20-year lease at Trump Tower in 2008, which is what Cenk had alluded to earlier. And he argued it was clear that the former president had not allowed his personal business incentives to drive his official actions. And he did note to the New York Times, he repeated the claim that he made on, I think that was on right-wing media about how they would donate the money to the Treasury Department. I don't even know. I think that's not true. I'm not sure. I'm gonna be clear about that. But if it's proven to be false and a complete lie, why the need to say that? Like it's just
no. Look, if it's true, it is actually a little bit of an excuse for the Trump people, but they still should follow the law and they should follow the Constitution, and they definitely didn't. But the reason I didn't state it in my list of things that mitigate this story was because Eric Trump said it. Eric Trump and every member of the Trump family has a record of lying approximately 95% of the time that they say anything at all. If they tell you they want something for lunch, they're probably lying and they want something else. So I'm only gonna believe it if it could ever be proven, which there's never been any proof. I've never heard of that before in my whole life. No Republican has ever said, oh, they're taking the money from the hotels and donating it to charity. So this is the first time we're ever hearing about it, even though Donald Trump has been this wonderfully charitable guy the whole time. Yeah, please.
Donald Trump wouldn't pay his own taxes. It's like the idea that he's gonna take some of the profits from his properties and then funnel it over to the Treasury Department just to make sure that everything he's doing is above board. He's not violating any rules or constitutional or anything in the Constitution. It, to me, is laughable. But again, just want to repeat, we haven't been able to verify that as a lie, or as something that's truthful. I think the New York Times maybe should have looked into it. They have the resources to do that.
Yeah, we have to put an asterisk every time with Trump people. Rebuttable presumption is that they're lying, but it could be disproved. All right, last word goes to one of our members. Another member, Naughtius Maximus, wrote in, maybe Dems need to seize Jared Kushner's laptop and mention it 1 billion times. I couldn't agree more. I'd seize it instantly. And I'd say, you got $2 billion right after you were in charge of foreign policy towards Saudi Arabia. The minute you get out of office, you get $2 billion. I want your laptop, I want your desktop, I want a warrant for your house, I want $2 billion. We're talking about Hunter Biden's laptop and his artwork and his Mickey Mouse scams that he ran. I mean, be a professional scammer like Jared Kushner. Great point by our members, tyt.com/join, or hit the join button below and be part of the show.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a Young Turk.